Remember, I got your room.
All right, we're here today on April the 5th in Callaway Gardens, Georgia. And we've got a group of Georgia athletic trainers that we're continuing on in the SEATA Legacy video. Learn a little bit more about Georgia athletic training in Georgia over the years. And first thing we're going to do is just go through and introduce each other and get to know a little bit about their history in the state of Georgia. So,
my name's Kurt Bazemore. I was born and bred in Valdosta, Georgia. Grew up in a sports family. Attended Georgia Tech on a football scholarship, and that's where I was first experienced sports medicine and athletic trainer, and particularly my particular trainer that I was closely with was Bill McDonald. And Bill was a real great influence on me from back in the day. Then I went on into physical therapy and worked out, eventually went into private practice, and sports medicine became a key component because we found at that time, and this was the early 80s, there wasn't a lot of athletic trainers in sports medicine in the schools. And we recognized an opportunity, and so we hired one of our first athletic trainers, and over the next 15 years, we probably at one time employed as many as 24, I think, athletic trainers working with schools from South Cobb to Cab and Gwinnett and Fulton, and it became a very vital role. And around 1994, I realized I need to go ahead and become one myself. So I went back, retook some courses, and was able to pass the exam. And very proud to say I became an athletic trainer and continued working in high schools. Sold my practice not too long after that, actually, and did some different things. And then now I work for an orthopedist and run their rehab clinic for there.
My name is Harris Patel. I'm a physician assistant and athletic trainer, dual credentialed in sports medicine, and grew up in Gwinnett County at Norcross High School, work in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I'm a University of Georgia product at the athletic training program, and went to Alabama for grad school for athletic training, and worked in the NFL and USA Track and Field as an athletic trainer. So.
I'm Lloyd Knott. I've been an athletic trainer for, oh goodness, since 1974 actually. So at the time in the 70s there weren't many jobs for athletic trainers. We were told that, you know, if you majored in athletic training and stuff or worked as a teacher in athletic training that you would find a job, but at that time it had not caught up with it. So I've done several jobs since that time. I've worked with electrolyte drinks, I've worked as an EMT and all these other things. Also owned a hardware store for a while. But besides that, I finally moved to Georgia, where it's a very progressive state. I mean, they had athletic trainers in high school. So I finally got to use my PE degree, and I finally got to be an athletic trainer. Through that, I've only been at East Coweta High School for 31 years now. Because of the legacy that was passed down to us from Harry Mullins, who was an athletic trainer at Noonan High, and because of that, it evolved all the way to what it is now. You're fixing to meet a friend of mine by the name of Radar Brantley, but he'll explain more. Go ahead.
My name's James Radar Brantley. I'm the head athletic trainer at Noonan High School in Noonan, Georgia. I've been there 32 and a half years. I came to Noonan from Troy State University in Troy, Alabama, where I worked under John Dr. Anderson. Got over here, and I'm a licensed athletic trainer. Warren Morris and Jerry Ray gave me the Georgia exam up at the old stomping grounds called Swanee. We were in the couple of first meetings when Tom Baer and Jeff Quinn with Atari in Macon, we started up with the Georgia athletic trainers, and I've worked with Leroy Mullins over at Ole Miss, and that's where I've been for the last 32 years.
Yeah.
all right. Well, we'll start back with you, but who would you say, who would you remember and acknowledge in the state of Georgia as being some of the pioneers and some of the people that have really contributed to athletic training through the years here in the state of Georgia?
Warren Morris and Jerry Ray. Those are two that I can think of.
Yeah. What were some of their significant contributions, do you think?
They, Warren Morris, if I'm not mistaken, set up on the first licensing board and was the liaison for the licensing board in Georgia Athletic Trainers.
All right.
Well, for me, I started in Mississippi, remember, and Jim Gillespie, Mississippi Southern, found this opening for me. Vernon Kidd, who worked under Max Bass and was the head coach of East Coweta, both of them went to work on their masters at Mississippi Southern. From that, I moved here and started off with just about nothing, actually. I had 2 tables and a draculator, and oh, by the way, the training room was upstairs, but I was the trainer. So the point is, as time goes on, things evolve, and how to put this is, Jerry Ray has influenced me a lot. My brother-in-law, who is Doug May, has influenced me a lot. He's an athletic trainer because I was at Mississippi State. At Mississippi State, I worked for Leroy Mullins. He left, and then Doug took over. I worked with Doug May for that period of time, and what comes around goes around, and Leroy Mullins just was nominated for retirement, put in the Hall of Fame at NATA. I mean, South SEATA meeting. So anyway, the point is, you meet people and you don't ever get out of their lives. It always comes back. So that's how I kind of evolved and who influenced me all the way.
Some of my mentors when I started at University of Georgia, my athlete training mentors at University of Georgia, Ron Corson and Chicken Hawk, called Steve Hawk, but Steve Bryant, Mike Dillon. But Mike Dillon's really been my influential mentor. That's kind of started when I started in '96, not knowing how to tape, not knowing any of that. And he always told me, as long as you have a pair of scissors, ice in your hands, that's really what you need in an athlete training room. And I still keep that to true. We have a lot of, obviously, modalities that we can use now, embraces, but still try to teach all the athlete trainers that I come across with that. But some of the influential people, athlete trainers that I've met throughout in the Southeast, because I've helped out with SEC stuff and officials, or like Chris Patrick at Florida, with Jim Manalino, we call him Mad Dog at Kentucky, to Paul Mock that used to be at Mississippi State, Ron Corson, and it's just been those are all the mentors that kind of influenced me to keep staying in athletic training and love the profession.
I probably want to echo both Warren Morris from his work in the legislature and his contacts. He knew he had influences and pull with all the legislators, it seems like. Obviously Jerry Ray was tremendous in the early days in his support and his, from his position with the Falcons. Joe O'Toole, who worked with the Hawks for years, was another one that fortunately, one of my partners ended up working under him for a while too, and I got to know Joe a little bit from there. Numbers of people. I mentioned Bill McDonald, who's at Tech and ended up being at Alabama. I think that's where he finished up, and in a lot of lesser known athletic trainers, just proud to have got to know them and see how hard they were willing to work and sacrifice for the kids.
Okay, great, wonderful. Anybody got any Dave Pursley stories? Longtime athletic trainer at the Atlanta Braves, or Joe O'Toole at the Hawks, Jerry Ray of the Falcons there?
Well, I mentioned Ron Corson, and of course he's head trainer at Georgia. Well, I can remember when Ron Corson was just a graduate assistant. Remember, I'm older than a few of them at this table. But anyway, remember when he was a graduate assistant, and then he moved on and became a physical therapist, athletic trainer, and is doing a wonderful job at Georgia. So it's amazing at how you start and it keeps growing and keeps growing, and the people you know and stuff. So, it's even the tables in my training room were made by Ron Corson's dad. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing what the network is of the Georgia trainers.
My trainer room equipment was made by Ron's dad. When we opened it up about 20 years ago, Max Bass had a hindsight or foresight, whichever you want to call it, with Max, to give up one of his coach's slots so he could hire an athletic trainer to take care of the kids that he had on his football teams. Mm-hmm. So Max had an influence on me as far as the coaches, and though at times he'd be hard-headed, but he would come around and start listening.
Okay. We were just at the awards ceremony and got to honor Lori Groover for her contributions. Can y'all think of some of the, talk about Lori and some of the other women that have made a significant impact here in the state of Georgia as athletic trainers? What y'all think of?
In those meetings that I talked to about at the Atari building in Macon, I want to say Diane King was in that group. And then Laurie came in, behind her, and Laurie lived in Coweta County with us. And I didn't know she was in the county. I just knew she was an athletic trainer. She was up at Woodward and all that. And we passed each other on the road one day, and it was like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I live here," and she did too. But Laurie's been a great one. We miss her dearly.
Yeah. Okay. Any other famous females? Deb Morris. Everybody remember Deb Morris, who married Warren Morris at the time? And I forget Deb's maiden name, but she was a longtime athletic trainer in the state of Georgia. And certainly there were some others up at Oglethorpe. So, sure there have been any significant contributions, and we'll have to get some of the...
presidents before.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Kelly
Kelly.
Sebastino.
Kelly Sabastino, who's
There you
now
go.
in District 3, but Kelly made some significant contributions during those legislative days, I believe, too, in that. Well, speaking of legislation, what do you think are some significant events that have occurred here in the state, either legislatively or perhaps, sadly, a tragedy or something that helped to highlight athletic trainers and their value to the schools, and the legislative process that y'all been through, and to some of the changes that have brought about that have helped the profession in the state here?
I mean, some of the legislative, Dr. Swearingen today that spoke at the, as a keynote speaker, brought up a lot of stuff that I've been thinking, made me think of when I started as an athletic trainer. And one of them is, what's the hot topic is concussion stuff. And we're seeing, we started Concussion Institute up in Gwinnett, one of the only ones in the country, but that's had a big evolution in the concussion legislation, and now that we have to sign off and have all these protocols, I think that's, there's a big education and awareness that's helping especially our athletes, but then our parents. We all know, but it's the education part, and I think that's been a huge key component. Also, the pre-participation sports physicals that we're doing, like that's what he said, it was just written in a prescription pad and said, "Johnny's cleared." Well, now we're doing what I call it the 14-point check, but with history questions and just some of the vitals, and just even looking for Marfan. Any of those that we can point out, we know it's a just really a checkpoint, and not a true sports physical in the standpoint of making sure we got all the scans done. But I think those are two big ones in my era that I kind of realized that the state of Georgia really helped with our student athletes.
Also, they were talking, Dr. Swearingen was talking about heat and problems like that. At East Coweta, we were part of the group that did the heat study. And what we did, we took temperatures every 15 minutes, and there was a computer unit that would always run and tell what the heat was. And we've changed our heat from just the heat index to the wet bulb studies that show that it's more accurate than what the heat index was. And also with Georgia High School Association, they made rulings as to what you could actually do and how soon you had to have your breaks and those kind of things. That was very helpful because, even though sometimes coaches are a little bit stubborn, not that I don't like coaches, but sometimes they're stubborn. So therefore you have to influence them. And when you go, well, Georgia High School says, and that's what the AD says, and magically it happens more and more. So the safety and the taking care of students in Georgia have become a lot greater with the concussion, with the heat, with the physicals. He wasn't lying. You used to get a physical, you go, Johnny can participate. He passed his physical. There was no direction as to what the physical was. It's just a sign off by the doctor. So now we have legislation for a license. We have heat index. We have all this stuff to protect the kids of Georgia, which is a great thing that we have. And basically, to be an athletic trainer is, of course, you have to go to school and pass the curriculum and all that, but you also have to have three things. That would be heart, to love what you want to do, because you're going to spend some time on those fields. You have to have brains to understand and pass all the courses. And you also have to have, the other thing is courage, to stand up to a coach and say, no, this kid's not going out there right now because he's hurt. So, that's what I got to say about that.
I agree with all of them. All the legislation that's back in has made Georgia one of the leading states in the health care of our student athletes. There's nothing more fulfilling than have a parent come up to you after a game that you've worked on their kid and tell them thank you for helping their child. We had soccer, the Coweta Cups at our place Friday night, and Northgate and Noonan was playing, and two of Northgate soccer players got hurt, and I went out and helped them, and I had no idea who they were, but they were on my campus. They were my athletes, they were my students, and parents come up to you and tell you thank you for the job that you do. And they had no idea who I was, other than everybody knows who Radar is, Lloyd, and is in the county. And it's just nothing more fulfilling, makes your heart swell up with pride about a parent coming up and telling you thank you for helping their child. And like Lloyd said, it's just something that you do. I've been doing it 32 years and a half, and I love every moment of it. But you will put in a lot of time that a lot of people's not willing to do. I've raised more of the kids in Coweta County than I did my own two sons. I've probably spent more time with everybody else's kids than my own two kids. But it's just a great feeling just to be appreciated.
Yeah.
Very good.
One thing I might add is underlying so much of that legislation has been the work of the athletic trainers, the input, the research, the talking to the physicians, to motivating the legislators, and I give credit to so many of our leaders in the athletic training field for those things.
All right. Tell us something. You guys have a little badge on that I've got to get a little picture of if I can get there. But what is the Noonan Mafia?
Well,
You tell them, Radar. You tell them now.
back in, I want to say, 88, 89, Dale Crock, who was a trainer at Northgate High School, passed away last November. Lloyd and myself, we'd always wind up at the SEATA meetings and the Gator meetings, and we were first known as the Three Amigos, because if you saw one, you saw the other two. Then Bill Patella nicknamed us the Noonan Mafia, and it sort of stuck. So we went out, since he did it, we made our name tags, and it started out originally that only people in Coweta County were going to be in the Noonan Mafia. Well, Laurie was about the fourth person who went into the Mafia, and then we decided, well, we just got him in, and then we decided we're going to have a different branches. So Lloyd's the East Coweta branch, Dale was the Northgate branch, I was the Noonan branch, and Laurie was the Woodward branch.
There you go.
So then everybody started, oh man,
They all wanted in an office.
That's right.
so Bill Patella we put in, and he was the what was it?
Corporate.
Epi, but he was the corporate sponsor.
That's right.
So Tom Bear was the Griffin,
Right.
and it's just a
So
little
it's just kind of,
group that we have, and it's hilarious. Everybody, there comes the Mafia. Better be careful. No, it's just a great thing that we have just for.
yeah. We've extended all the way to Florida. I mean, we got people in Mississippi, and
Yeah.
I think got one in Florida, don't we? So it's grown a lot since
We've
started.
we've had some to
From the
leave the
Three Amigos
profession.
to what we got now. And I guess we're the Godfathers, huh?
That's right.
And I think there's about 18 of us.
So there you go.
We have
So
one
do
room.
it.
Watch
So-
out,
So do I have
watch
to?
out,
So
too.
do we have to be afraid? Be very afraid
That's right.
of the Noonan Mafia.
Never know. Because I'm the enforcer.
Okay. Well, thank you for that bit of levity there. So let's look to the future here a little bit, or let's look to now. You're the executive director. You're the president of NATA for the day or the week. You know what would you like to see change if you had your opportunity to rule for a day and implement change? What would you like to see in the profession of athletic training?
Come over here, let me tell you what I think I'd like to see. I'd like to see more athletic trainers in the high school setting, because there's always something going on at the high school. There's always some kind of game of something, and kids are getting hurt. So legislation would be great if we could have a position presented where an athletic trainer was required to be at, on campus, or Georgia High School maybe could do something else. That should be in the future, because I have many schools that don't have trainers or don't have training rooms, and they come and I take them to the training room and they go, holy crap, can't believe all that stuff. So, we take care of everybody that's on campus. It doesn't matter. And it's just what we do. And but we need to expand the job market to include more people, young people coming in, and also I know clinics have got trainers, and they go out. It doesn't matter to me if you're a clinical trainer or a trainer at the high school campus. The kids still need to be taken care of, and that the state legislatures need to look at to make it so. I don't know how. If I did, I'd tell them, but I don't know how. But there should be some way, because the state of Texas seems to be doing a real good job at that.
I'd like to see where, and like I said, I'm old school. I'm a licensed athletic trainer. I went through when it was more hands-on. It was no curriculum. And like when I started over at Troy State with Doc Anderson, he took me in and said, this is your taping spot. And I never taped an ankle, so we spent about an hour showing me things I needed to do. And says, at 1:30, you got 25 football players, and they got to be on the field in 25 minutes. So I had to tape them and get them on. First time I ever taped. But there, we keep saying we need athletic trainers in the high schools. Well, a lot of the school systems can't afford to pay strictly an athletic trainer. Like myself, I was hired as a physical education teacher, and I taught kindergarten through 5th grade. And then I'd go over to the high school and do the athletic training part. To me, and they may have looked at this, I don't know, because I'm not into the politics or whatever, but there's got to be some way that the NATA or the governing boards, that when they get their BOC, they can somehow work to get it like a teaching certificate, because the schools are willing to hire, but they're mostly funded by the state, and the state will pay for a teaching slot / athletic trainer instead of just an athletic trainer. I don't know if it can be done, but I know that there's got to be a way. I mean, we keep talking, we need them in the high school, male, female. We've been looking, try to get a female trainer at Noonan for 20 years. But there's some that's come through, but there's no teaching certificate. They can teach science, biology, anatomy, and then, but a lot of them that come in don't want to spend all that time in the classroom. I understand that. In the field that I was in, physical education, I didn't have much paperwork. I mean, we did what we were supposed to do and did a good job at it, and then we'd go to the high school and then take care of those. But there's got to be some way that the two can work together to get a teaching degree and the BOC into the school systems.
Thank you.
If I got to spend a day on the top NATA, I think I would like to do kind of like what I'm doing now, but integrate sports medicine with all the facets, from athletic training, physical therapy, PAs, MDs, everybody, that we can kind of get back together, because the ultimate goal that I try to teach our med students, PA students, athletic training students, PT students is ultimate goal is taking care of the athlete at whatever level. We have middle school, we have AAU ball, we got high school, we got collegiate. We work with a lot of professional athletes, and how can we integrate that? We all have our specialties, but then we can kind of produce that on. So, you know, how do we do that? I mean, I feel like there's certain groups that do a good job with that, but how do we do that across the board? That they're really, you know, that. And I think one of the things that Dr. Schrader says is going to be, if they can work it out, is having everything's going electronic. So having an electronic PPE for the state of Georgia, so if someone goes somewhere, they have that, and then we can integrate that with more collaboration with, you know, making the student athlete a healthier competition.
Great.
For me, it's two things. Coming from a clinical rehab background, I feel like there needs to be more push towards first recognition of who an athletic trainer is. Public, unless they have a kid or something at school, for the most part, and maybe they see the trainers at the professional level on TV, but most of them don't have an idea of what the trainer's doing in the high school. And therefore, I think if they had a better idea of what the trainers are doing and how valuable and important they are, they would push themselves. And that's where we're going to see a greater push for, whether it's certification or if it's you know, to have more trainers in the school is going to come from a public. Just like right now, they're doing concussion things because the public is starting to demand it and look for it. Secondly, is for trainers, you know, more and more to be able to bill for and be reimbursed. There's one thing to have the legislation that says you can bill. It's a whole other thing to get the insurance companies to actually pay. And to me, because I'd love to hire athletic trainers in the clinic. I'm hesitant to do it because I don't know that insurance is going to bill. And I think that's something that's got to come from a national level, working with the big insurance companies to show them that, listen, the athletic trainer has every ability and right to bill for their rehab services.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a privilege to spend a little time with you, members of the Georgia Athletic Trainers Association, and thank you for your time in this SEATA Legacy video, and hopefully we'll enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.